There. Are you doing, Kurt?
Doing good. How are you guys?
Doing really well. We're going to go straight into questions. And our first question for you will come from Claire B. Lang. Go ahead with your question, Claire.
Thank you. Kurt, you really didn't have to say anything after last week. That image of you coming out of your hauler with your cap down, pulled down near your eyes and your hands in your pockets and your head down. How did you come out of the race at Kansas? That image will just stay in my mind. You had nothing to do with it, and you had such high hopes.
That's just part of the emotions and the ups and the downs and everything that goes into NASCAR Cup racing. You know, you prepare all week, all month to build a car that's going to take it to the next level in this round of 8. And Kansas just didn't turn out all that well for us with the engine failure and the things that led up to all that. It's just part of racing. I mean, everybody prepared at the highest level at Hendrick Engines and, of course, at Chip Ganassi Racing. And we just didn't have the luck to get to the end of that race and to have a shot at winning.
Everybody who knows Kurt Busch knows everybody who knows Kurt Busch knows there's no give up in Kurt, and there's no give up in the monster team. 73 points down. How do you look at it?
I look at it as I like Texas better anyway. So we're going to gas it up hard at Texas. We ran really well there the last few races together as a unit at Chip Ganassi Racing. And what's great is we were in position this spring race. Actually, there was a race in the summer months of July. When Austin Dillon won, we were on the same pit sequence as him. We took 2 tires just as he did, and he beat us off pit road. So we were that close to having a shot at winning earlier this year. And so that gives us that good motivation, good vibes, and good feel to know that we're close. And now we have to execute here in November to do the right things to win with cooler track temps.
I wish you good luck, Kurt. Thanks for your time, okay?
Thank you.
Our next question will come from Woody King. Go ahead with your question, Woody.
Hey, Kurt, appreciate your time. Look ahead for us a week, if you will, with Martinsville and just for lack of a better word, the appropriateness of having an old school short track be the race that decides who gets to race for a championship ultimately.
Yeah, you look at it as a wild card. That's how I see it. We've had, the race at the Roval as a cutoff. We've had Talladega in years past as a restrictor plate race, wild card, cutoff race. And so Martinsville is a track where you're going to see all the front runners running up front. Some are going to gamble on tires and have to race with elbows out and to move guys out of the way. And heck, you could be running third and the leaders take each other out and you get an invite to the championship round. There's going to be so many variables and so many wide open chances from Martinsville. That's why NASCAR chose to put that track as the cutoff.
Our next question will come from Chase Wilhelm. Go ahead with your question, Chase.
Hey, Kurt, thanks for joining us. So going back to Texas and building off what you said earlier about it, you haven't finished outside the top 10 there since 2016. And then also throwing out last week, you've been fairly consistent on mile and a halfs this year. So did that make it a little bit easier to kind of refocus yourself after last week?
We felt like we had 2 solid bullets in the chamber. That's Kansas and Texas with this round of 8. Martinsville were not all that bad either. The Ganassi team has helped me run better at that track. And so we just have to adapt. There's new right side tire that we're going to have. That was the same right side as what we won with at Vegas. It's what everybody raced with at Kansas last week. And those are those things that you have to adapt to with no practice. And what you have to do to win, it's understanding all the little things that make up big differences.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Our next question will come from Jordan Bianchi. Go ahead with your question, Jordan.
Kurt, in light of your engine failure last week, is there anything different going to be done differently to the engine this week at Texas because it's a similar size track?
I don't believe so. As far as them and Hendrick Engines going through all the diagnostics and researching what had happened, there's still so many little details that have to add up to what the final result was at Kansas. And so there's just normal preparations and, in my mind, gassing it up as hard as we can for Texas because, second place isn't going to cut it at the end of the day. And so if there's a chance to go with something big, of course, I've got my arm up as high as it can go. And I know that everybody will make the right decisions together on what we need to win Texas.
Deal. Our next question will come from Mark Garrow. Go ahead with your question, Mark.
Kurt, just sort of following up on what Woody was talking about a moment ago with Martinsville next week, and you talk about it being a wild card. Given there's so much at stake and it means so much to make the championship four, if you're in a position where you've got to do something that maybe you might not want to do, do you have to kind of prepare yourself to go like, hey, there's a line that I may have to cross. I may not want to, but I'm going to have to.
Yeah, for me, I'm already past that line. I'm not even going to think about it. I'm going to do it. I feel like all the goodwill I've built up with other drivers, the position of being a veteran in this sport and knowing what it takes to win a championship, I've put all the puzzle pieces in place. And we just have to have those puzzle pieces fit together seamlessly. And some of those are decisions out on the track where you can't hesitate. You just have to go. And that's where we're not going to back down. Doesn't matter who it is. We've got Matt Kenseth out there on the Ganassi side helping, the other Chevy guys that aren't in it. We got to go up against these Toyotas and these Fords and these powerhouse teams. And we're not looking at any kind of ill side effects. We're going for it. And so that's the tone and the mood for the number one Monster Energy Chevy team.
And can I also follow up on Claire and the emotions of last week? How do you explain to fans how it feels to have the high of winning a race and, making your way into the next playoff round, to have such devastation delivered in the opening race of the next round? I mean, how do you explain to people just the swing and the depth of those emotions?
It's difficult to put it all into words. It's a roller coaster for sure. Everybody tuning in and watching, our social media following, different texts from friends and family members. It takes you on that ride even when the race is over. Over 500 texts were on my phone after winning Vegas. There was only about 50 after an engine blow. And so you can see just in that on how people want to react with the tough situation versus the enjoyment. And, when you're riding that roller coaster and you're at that top, everything looks great from up there. And then when you take the ride down and you hit that G-force at the bottom and you have that sinking pit feeling in your stomach, that's exactly what an engine failure feels like. And yet, you got to bounce back quick. I mean, that's what Mark Martin told me early on in my career. You're going to have the highs. You're going to have the lows. You got to draw a line in the middle and get back there as fast as you can.
Thank you.
Our next question will come from Casey Campbell. Go ahead with your question, Casey.
Thanks, Matt. Hey, Kurt, how are you?
Good.
I was wondering, what do you think has been the biggest change with Chevrolet this year? 3 cars in, I think, in the round of 8. What's been the biggest difference this year with Chevrolet compared to last year?
I think the small things are making big differences. The reevaluation of the Camaro, the understanding of this 550 horsepower package, how you have to have every horsepower on the dyno count towards your effort on race weekends. It seems like the wind tunnel time and the work back and forth between all Chevy teams, with Hendrick, with Richard Childress Racing, Chip Ganassi Racing, even JTG. It feels like the wind tunnel stuff has been shared more so, the engine data, and then even just with the collaboration of racing on restrictor plate races, we've done a better job in all categories. So it's not one thing that's made a difference. I think it's just chipping away and having more darts hit the dartboard.
Thanks, Kurt.
Our next question will come from David de Guzman. Go ahead with your question, David.
Kurt, I asked Kevin this earlier. I got an interesting answer. Most years by this point in the season, you've done a long year. You've had weekends filled with qualifying and practice and then racing. Obviously, this year is different, especially with the layoff that we had of not racing because of the pandemic. How do you feel mentally going into these last couple of races? Do you feel less fatigued, better mentally going into the final 3?
Yeah, I feel like there's always that mindset of how to manage the time and how to manage the season and when to peak, so to speak, with all elements. And with no practice, no qualifying, days such as Friday and Saturday that are opened up, that's when you pour all of your energy towards that Sunday and getting the best out of the car all through the stages, through the race, and to try to win. And then for us at Chip Ganassi Racing to win at Vegas a couple of weeks ago, we're still on a hot air balloon ride, and it feels great to be up there. And that's where we want to stay. And that's where there could be 10 races left this year. We're still going to go after it just as hard.
Thank you.
Good deal. Well, Kurt, thank you for taking the time to join us, and good luck this weekend at Texas Motor Speedway.
Great. Thank you, everybody.